What's up, throttlers? I'd like to thank you for joining me. I'd like to thank you for staying safe, for staying home during a pandemic, because I saw a post yesterday on Twitter that someone said, it feels weird not being at church on Easter, not being surrounded by people at church on Easter. And I wrote back to them, I replied to their tweet, I said, it's weirder going out during a pandemic to be around crowds, so don't complain, guy. All right? So today, we're talking scary movies. We are going to talk scary movies, and I'm going to talk scary movies with you guys. But I'm going to wait till we start to crowd in the room, start to virtually gather in this room, stay at least 6 feet apart, I think. I think we're at least 6 feet apart from each other right now. Just want to give you guys an update. I'll start out with an update with my parents. No fevers for the last 2 days, so that's good. They're actually in good spirits. They're feeling good. They're catching up on the Marvel movies. There are 22 movies to catch up on, at least, so they're doing that. And so it gives me something to change the subject with them on. But I've been asking them all of these essential questions every morning to make sure that they're doing all the things that they have to do, because I'm going to be the annoying son who calls them every morning and does their telemedicine. Is it telemedicine? Telemedicine. I like to speak it. I like to put a Spanish accent on it. I have a thing in my hair. Half of the show is going to be me pulling this thing out of my hair. 3/4 of the show. I think I pushed it further in. It'll come out. It'll be like one of those things where someone will say, like, I remember I swallowed my G.I. Joe shoe when I was a kid, and then I pooped it out when I was an adult. But it'll be like a thing in my hair 20 years from now that I'll lose. What's up, Kelsey, Alabama? Nice to join us. We're talking about scary movies today. You know, it would be a scarier movie. I was also making fun of people who were complaining about not being able to go to church in crowded areas yesterday during Easter, because they're sad. They're sad they can't be around. Listen, we're all sad we can't be around people. What would be sadder if because we were sad that we couldn't be around people, we were around people and then people died because of that. Sounds dramatic, but it's true. What's up, the Boxleitner Brothers? Thank you so much for joining us. The Boxleitner Brothers, if you don't know, are horror film aficionados, also horror film makers. They have made several horror films. Sooner or later, my mouth is going to start working today, and that's when I'll start talking. But they have made several movies. Very excited to be working with them on one of them that they're coming out with. They've got a feature that they're doing, and it's very exciting. Very excited. My eyes are going to pop out of my head. But I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to give away any details they don't want to give away. But today, let's consult with the Boxleitner Brothers. If you don't follow them already, go to their page. If you're on YouTube, watching this on YouTube right now, follow them, subscribe. They've got lots of good content, and they're very funny and good people, it turns out. There are good people in this world. Remember that. I am a fan of them as people, and I'm a fan of their work. So you should be too. What's up, Kareem Big Benz? Do you drive a Big Benz? I'm going to wave to you. Scary movies. I did a little musical intro. I'll do it again because I messed it up. I messed it up again. Anybody know that one? If you can name that one, you can just drop that in one of the comments. You guys rock, Boxlighter Brothers. And today is going to be in their wheelhouse, horror movies. We're going to talk about horror movies. What's the scariest movie? And maybe it doesn't even have to be a horror movie. What's the scariest movie? Because Sophie's Choice, I mean, that's kind of scary if you think about it. I mean, and don't think about it too much because you'll get sad. It's a really sad, scary movie. My favorite movie of all time, and I don't know if it's arbitrary or not, but when people ask what's your favorite movie, I say Silence of the Lambs because I think it's one of the perfect. It's a great. It's almost a perfect adaptation of the book, and it happens to be a horror film if you think about it. Silence of the Lambs. It puts lotion on the skin. I have a friend of mine, and we always will do the impression of Buffalo Bill. Oh, wait. No, He's a... I figured out that if you take Mitch McConnell and just overdub Mitch McConnell on Buffalo Bill, or vice versa, the Senate Majority Whip, this dude... They have the same voice. They might even be the same person. Mitch McConnell and Buffalo Bill might be the same person. I haven't seen them in the same room, but if you just take Buffalo Bill and say it rubs the lotion on his skin, and then you just say maybe like she was warned, she was told, nevertheless she persisted. Oh wait, was she a great big fat person? It's the same person. They're the same person. Silence of the Lambs, definitely horror. And it's cool. That's Boxlight and her brother saying it's definitely horror. I agree. Because and it's kind of like beautiful horror too. There's a lot of different types of horror. There's I just watched Midsummer. Midsummer I thought was definitely a horror. However, none of the stuff kind of was. I don't want to spoil Midsummer if you haven't seen it, but I don't think any of what happens in that movie was supernatural per se. Does it have to be supernatural to be a true horror film? Because The Exorcist has some supernatural stuff in there. Halloween, the first Halloween, I don't know if it's supernatural at all, really. It's just kind of a crazy kid who grows up to be a crazy murderer. And even the first Friday the 13th, then the sequels start to add all this lore and all this mythology to these movies. But if you're thinking back to, the classic 80s horror movies, Nightmare on Elm Street, definitely a lot of, what do they call that? Witchcraftery in that. I don't know. A guy who goes inside your dreams and eats meatballs off a pizza. What's up, Lee? So drop your favorite horror movies in the comments and we'll start talking about them. Midsummer, though, I thought was pretty cool because it was a horror movie that takes place in broad daylight. Now, there's a festival, I guess, a Nordic festival during the summer, during the solstice, because there's basically 24 hours of daylight. So a horror movie that takes place all during the daylight is a great idea. Ari Aster. My name happens to be Ari, so I say Ari. I don't know if he says Ari. But he also did Hereditary, which that movie messed me up, man. I watched Hereditary and I was freaked out for days. I was really freaked out for days. I actually talk about that with the Boxlight Brothers on a Boxtober episode on my channel, if you guys want to check that out. But I had watched, and I couldn't shake it for about a day and a half because Toni Collette really, really goes to the edge of sanity. I mean, she goes over the edge of sanity. But that movie, for the most part, if you've seen it, spoiler alert, doesn't really... It also doesn't have a supernatural thing until maybe later. Maybe. Definitely later in the movie. But is it? Is Hereditary, does it go to supernatural, or is it an illustration of, say, severe mental illness? There's no way of knowing. There's no way of knowing. I think it's the latter. I think all of that stuff could have, not all of the stuff, but I think there's a lot of stuff that could have just been delusion some of the characters. The thing I love about there's a certain horror movie trope that I like where they kind of kill off the main character or who we think that is the main character. I think Scream really capitalizes on that when they kill off Drew Barrymore in the first 10 minutes of the movie, because you're like, oh, it's Drew Barrymore. And then you're like, wait, now she's dead. That's not much of a spoiler. It happens in the very beginning. They were going to do that. I think that's a cool... I mean, I don't know if it's cool or not, but it's definitely, they'd use it a lot. They actually will kill people off that you think are the identifying character. And then, you know, you have to find a new one. That's what all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies do. Like clockwork. They basically, every movie you're like, I like this person, and then they get killed halfway through, and then someone else has to be the person you like, and then they get killed halfway through the next movie, which I noticed at a very young age. The things I like about horror movies, I guess, for me, are how psychologically damaging they can be. I like to be psychologically scared and damaged. There's a lot of cool movies that reveal maybe a monster that looks scary, but then after you see the monster for a bit, you're not scared anymore. You're not very worried about it because you kind of expect it. And that's what I love about Alien, the first Alien, the best Alien. There's an ongoing debate, guys. Which is better, Alien or Aliens? Which is a better movie? I'd like to get your feedback on that. So let me know what which Alien movie is better. The first one or the second one. All the other ones you could just write off. It's the first one. It's Alien. But let me know what you think. And why. Alien is a horror movie. It's very psychologically scary, and they reveal only parts of the monster throughout the movie until the end, which I always find smarter. Predator does that. You never really see the Predator until the last bit, and then when the Predator gets revealed, you're like, wow, that is one ugly MFer. Good thing they haven't shown his face all this movie. That was a C chord. So, the thing I love about Silence of the Lambs is it's all very much a psychological thriller. Alien is a better horror movie, Will says. It's definitely a better horror movie. Aliens is an action movie. It's a space action movie that is built upon the shoulders of Alien. Aliens is a sequel. And the thing is, with Aliens, do you think Aliens was more terrifying but action-packed? I think Aliens was... I don't know. I think it was pretty scary. It had thrills in it. And it is scary. And it is creepy. But Alien, for me, for my opinion, and this, I've got a microphone, so I'm going to tell you my opinion. I think that Alien just came up with so much lore. Nobody really knew anything about sort of this psychosexual terror. The alien is deliberately androgynous, and it's like this weird archetypical creature that H.R. Geiger made, and he's very well known for doing some like weird dark stuff. And Aliens definitely takes that mythology and builds on it and makes it more and adds to it. And they're like, well, James Cameron said, if there are eggs being laid, who's laying those eggs? I'm going to invent the idea that the aliens have a queen. And that's scary. However, I think Alien is such a really good people think it's slow moving, but I think it's well paced, I would say. And if you look at the time, it makes so perfect sense that Alien would come out right when it did. Because in 1976, you had Shocks. Jaws came out, biggest movie in the world. In 1977, you had Star Wars, which was about space. So what did people do in 1979 when they came out with Alien? They wrote a movie about space sharks. It's basically a shark in space. Jaws in space. The sense of being overwhelmed by hordes of aliens you couldn't escape with acid blood, that was just hounding you no matter how. Yeah, that was definitely scary. That was definitely. But could you get that vibe from like maybe a war movie? It is pretty scary. I mean, this is about scary movies. Watch The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. The Fly is one of my favorite movies of all time. Actually, my favorite director of all time is David Cronenberg, who directed The Fly. He also directed The Dead Zone. He directed Naked Lunch also. What else? I could just probably go down his list. He directed Existenz. That's a scary, weird, creepy body horror movie. A History of Violence, Eastern Promises. These are more recent movies he did. Dead Ringers with Jeremy Irons. There are several Jeremy Ironses in that movie. The Fly is so good. Fly, body horror. Do you have a preference of horror? Does anybody have a preference of horror? Because David Cronenberg, being my favorite director of all time, ironically, because I'm not like the biggest horror movie, Videodrome, very good movie. It's got James Woods, and back when VCRs were inside your stomach, that was when we were kids. We put our videotapes in our belly and pulled guns out of it. That was how we did it, guys. Scanners was pretty good. There's a very famous scene of Michael Ironside blowing some guy's head up just with his mind. Try that. I've done that like 3 times this week. Don't get on my nerves. I'll blow your head up just by thinking about it. Cronenberg loves gore. But does he, though? I think he picks his moments when he does gore. When he does scary stuff, and he said this in many interviews, he'll just say, you know, a lot of people think that my movies are filled with gore. But if you actually break down the amount of time he'll show creepy and scary stuff, it's only about 90 seconds worth in an entire movie that he makes. So he says he only picks spots to be impactful about it. And so you do walk away from the movie remembering it, but it's only brief little shots and brief glimpses. And even in A History of Violence, there's a great scene where someone gets smashed in the face with a hot coffee pot. Very inventive violence. But they show the guy laying on the ground kind of like with a disfigured, really damaged face. But I remember it, but it's only for about a second and a half. Horror comedy. Gotta love horror comedy. Evil Dead 2. I'm a fan of Evil Dead 2. That is also... I mean, that to me is just like the ideal of all horror in my mind. Or at least the idea of horror and comedy, because scares and laughs are basically, they kind of come in the same place. They're both a surprise. You don't laugh on purpose. You laugh because it's a surprise. You get scared because it's a surprise. You don't get scared on purpose. Like, so laughing and being scared are pretty much, they're cousins. They're brothers, actually. And I think that when I watch a movie like Evil Dead 2, I don't know whether I'm going to be frightened or scared throughout the whole movie. I watched it at the perfect age. I think I was maybe in 4th grade or something. And it came on at 3 a.m., which is the perfect time to watch something. And it was my friend was sleeping over, and we were staying up late. We were watching TV, and we saw the Necronomicon on the screen, and we're like, "Oh, that's cool. Let's watch this movie." And we were terrified and laughing the entire time. And it was one of the greatest horror movie experiences in my life, if not the best. The history of violence, going back to Cronenberg, very good movie. Cronenberg himself is kind of a horror movie legend. He is in Is he in? He's in Nightcrawlers. Nightcrawlers, not Nightcrawlers. Nightbreed. Nightbreed. Thank you. Thank you, brain. My brain is very slow these days. Shaun of the Dead. Yes. Those are good. Simon Pegg in them. Good stuff. I kind of feel like we're living in Shaun of the Dead right now. You're just seeing people walking around at the same time there's a pandemic, and people are just like, "Oh, okay. Let me just go get the mail and get eaten by a zombie." If you guys aren't being safe, or if you want to know how to be safe, stay away from everybody. Wash your hands. Wear a face covering. The face covering is not to protect you from getting sick. Just act as though you are sick. Wear a face covering because it's basically going to prevent you from also touching your own face. It's going to keep the spit from flying out your mouth onto someone else or onto other surfaces someone else can touch. It's basically the use of a face covering. It's not a way to prevent you from getting sick. It's just gonna... They say it's better than nothing. It's actually just a little bit better than nothing. So be safe. Be respectful of other human beings, and care about that stuff. Clive Barker was a nut. Clive Barker, yeah, man. Nightbreed, yeah. Nightbreed is one of those movies you gotta just see because it's just freaking creepy. One of my favorite horror movies of all time. I think my favorite horror movie in the classic sense, in the sense that he's just changed horror so many times. John Carpenter. The Thing has got so many special effects in it that I was terrified, and all of those special effects had to be filmed. They were practical effects. They were on camera. And very scary stuff, guys. And they actually made a sequel to The Thing. And the sequel to The Thing, they did a bunch of practical effects, but then just redid them digitally, which totally defeats the whole concept of that movie. Oh, Simon Pegg did a COVID-19 parody. Crossover sorts. Oh, They Live. John Carpenter. They Live with Rowdy Roddy Piper and Keith David fighting most of the movie. Most of the movie is them wrestling. And I like it. It's actually... that movie is great. It says a lot about society. John Carpenter always has something to say in his movies. He's always got a theme that he's working with. And They Live is really good because it is about consumption. It is about obeying the system. It is about complying and slowly being taken over. The Red Scare. You're thinking about people worried about communists infiltrating our society. Watch They Live. You'll get scared on a deeper level. It's not just surface stuff here, people. Yeah, The Thing, John Carpenter. The blood test scene is the greatest ever. That scene scared me. I watched that movie when I was way too young to watch it. This is the 80s, guys. My parents got a VCR. So we watched The Thing when it came out on video. I was way too young. And I was terrified, but I loved it. 30 Days of Night. I don't remember that one. What about vampire movies? Are they scary, or are they just kind of a genre that uses horror? I don't know what I mean by that, but I wonder if that makes any sense to anyone else. Do they use the concept of... I'm pretty sure horror movies, like vampire movies, are based in humans' observation that bats, perhaps, carry disease. Now, this is... like, come with me on this one, actually. Out of all mammal species, bats make up 25%. If you were just list every type of mammal, 25% of that list would be bats. It's kind of a scary thing. They live a long time. They harbor lots of different types of viruses because their bodies are built that way. And this pandemic started with bats, um, basically having a spillover event onto different animal species and then onto humans, and the humans are spreading it amongst themselves. But what if Draculas were invented because people noticed that people got sick when they were around bats? So now the whole kind of mythology and the primordial thoughts and like the basest fears that we have as people are like, hey, stay away from bats. They can get you sick and turn you into a vampire. Apparently, Carpenter came up with the idea of They Live right after Reagan became president. He saw the writing on the wall. He sure did. Man, oh man. Very cool. Yeah, Carpenter had his finger on the pulse of how to scare people viscerally and also visually. He's got a very good visual touch. The thing I love about Carpenter also is that wrong note. He came up with that song, which is in 5/4. If you guys are music nerds, it's pretty cool. It's from 5/4. He came up with that piece of music days before the final cut of Halloween, because there was no score to the movie. And he's like, there's no score to the movie that I find satisfyingly scary, so I'm going to come up with it myself. And he has scored pretty much all of his movies, actually. He plays a mean electric guitar. And he tours now with his son, and they play lots of his music from his movies. Watch Transfiguration, a new vampire movie unlike any I've ever seen. It's so good. I'm going to write that down. I'm writing it down. Transfiguration. I actually like vampire movies. Vampire movies, to me, can be really interesting. I enjoyed Dracula. Dracula, as you might know, is a BBC show that is on Netflix right now. I thought it was really fun. The first episode's amazing. Second episode is pretty good. The third episode, you gotta maybe wait a week before you watch it, because if you're watching them all consecutive, it might be like a curveball to you. You may not like it, but I enjoyed going on the journey with this dude who's playing Dracula. He was so much fun. He just kind of tore up the scenery, ate it all up. Thought it was great. Older vampire movies are scary. Yeah, well, Blackula would hold up today. Just being real. What's up, Travis? We're talking about horror movies today. Talking about scary movies, and maybe not just horror movies, but movies that are scary. So let me know what you guys think is scary. I find psychological thrillers like Silence of the Lambs definitely scary. One of the scariest things in a vampire mythology is that he can turn into mist. Saw a Dracula on PBS as a kid. Saw and put towels on my windows so he could not get in. That's smart. Also wear a garlic necklace. Carry holy water in your back pocket. And use a cross. I rewatched The Lost Boys the other day. And when I say the other day, I mean a year ago. It was awesome. The Lost Boys has outlived its time and got better over time. It's one of those movies that got better. I remember watching Lost Boys as a kid. Most of what I took away with it was, why did they just keep showing a guy with no shirt playing the saxophone? But then I remembered, I realized that Joel Schumacher directed, and I was like, oh, okay. Forgiven. The whole movie is fantastic. It's a phenomenal movie. Rewatch The Lost Boys. And it is pretty scary. It's got scares. It also has Bill from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure playing a vampire. Byzantium. I'll check that out. I've not seen The Lost Goys. Is The Lost Goys, like, what is that? Are there rabbis involved? The Lost Goyim? Yeah, The Lost Boys is so good. It is a classic. The thing is, I remember watching it as a kid, and I used to be a nerd. I've since not recovered. But I remember reading reviews of every movie, and I could remember the star rating and review of the movie when I was a kid. And The Lost Boys only got something like 2 stars out of 4. And I was like, wow, I really like The Lost Boys, but this reviewer gave it 2 stars, this reviewer in TV Guide. And I just could not rectify that in my head. Now, many, many years later, I rewatched Lost Boys and I was like, no, this movie's still good. And that reviewer did not know what they were reviewing. They had no concept of what the heck they were watching. Just like all the people who've seen The Room. They didn't know what they were watching until they saw it. The saxophone guy is named Tim Capello, and he's my idol. And I want to be just like him. You know, it's funny. That's what I was thinking. I was like, this is rock and roll. I need to oil myself up and take up an instrument a little bit cooler than the saxophone. Sorry, guys, but the bass guitar, the electric bass guitar is a little bit cooler than the saxophone. And I became just like Tim Capello. It's true. Stephen King's Cat's Eye was one Cat's Eye, that's a good one. I love Cat's Eye because it's vignettes. It's different vignettes following the life of this cat. The one that freaked me out, the Cat's Eye that freaked me out was the 2 stories that I remember in that, because it's a several story thing, because you're following The Lost Boys was directed by, according to Travis, Kevin Spacey, and it's on Pornhub. So enjoy that. Enjoy that in your quarantine, in your isolation. But Stephen King's Cat's Eye, I remember that little troll stealing people's breath. That was creepy. And I also remember the guy trying to bet the other guy, which was also a scary story, and he had to walk around that 1-foot ledge of an entire building. He was losing money, and he went double or nothing, and he was trying to bet this guy that he could walk around the 1-foot ledge of a building. And that was scary in a different way. It didn't involve tiny little trolls that come out of a hole in the wall to steal your breath at night. I'm going to listen to Tim Capello all day on Spotify now, and I'm going to dump olive oil on myself and maybe haven't seen The Descent yet. So I haven't seen The Descent yet either, but writing it down. Transfiguration and the Decent. Creepshow 1982. Kicking it back to 1982. Creepshow was pretty cool. The one I remember from that was the lake, the little monster that eats you from the lake. That was cool. Descent is good. We're getting some Yep, James Woods is in Cat's Eye. James Woods is also in Videodrome. With Videodrome. So The Descent, what year is The Descent? Did I see The Descent? Ooh, maybe I did. Let me see. Let me look up this movie. The Decent, 2005. Ooh, it looks scary. There's lots of people looking scared. I'm going to check it out. 2005, yes. Kelsey gets the blue ribbon for guessing that right. I don't know what I should give out for trivia. Writing The Descent down. I do like it. It looks like, what is this? It looks like a vampire movie. Did you guys like Blade? Did you watch the Blade trilogy? Because there's an Oscar-winning director who directed Blade 2. He just won the Oscar. Guillermo del Toro. He won for the movie Me and the Fish, I think it's called. Me and the Fish Guy. But Guillermo del Toro directed the second Blade movie, which was actually pretty scary and cool. Strip trivia. Yeah, we should do strip trivia. Everything that I get right, I put on a layer. How does it work? Cave exploring and tight spaces generally make me anxious. So, ooh, yeah. That's pretty cool. cave spelunking, if you will. The concept of being restricted. There's that movie with Ryan Reynolds where he's like in a casket or something for the whole movie, and he's got to try to figure out how to get out of that. That's actually pretty scary. That's a terrifying notion. In olden times, during the plague and stuff, during all sorts of different kinds of weird random deaths, they used to put a string and connect it to a bell down to the casket after they buried you, and they'd leave it there for about a week, because sometimes people, they didn't know how to pronounce someone dead back then. They just didn't know how to pronounce the word dead, I guess. And then they were dumb people. Everybody was dumb before now, and now we're just really dumb. But it turns out a lot of times people were buried alive, and they would pull on the string so that they'd ring the bell so that they'd get dug back up, because they were like, oops, my bad. Didn't know you was dead fully. Didn't know you was fully dead yet. That seems like scary as hell. Sinister, buried. If he's anything like the bride in Kill Bill, he could have done the 1-inch punch to get out of the casket underground and then dug his way up. That would have been cool. You ever watch Bruce Lee do the 1-inch punch? Google that. It's pretty neat. Wow. 47 meters down. 47 meters? I'm writing all these down. I'm going to watch them all, and then we're going to have like a book club and talk about these maybe in a week. Because I think I'm in the mood to watch some scary movies. Maybe make me feel better about what's going on in the world. Goodish news to report if you guys are just tuning in. Parents haven't had a fever in a couple days. They've got COVID-19, so they're feeling pretty good. They're catching up on all of the Marvel movies. Today they were watching Columbo. 47 meters is 2 hours of awful anxiety, says Kelsey. I don't know. Maybe I could use that. Poughkeepsie Tapes is the scariest movie I've ever seen, and saw it streaming somewhere recently. The Poughkeepsie Tapes. It reminds me of Blair Witch Project. Did you guys see that? The idea of like a found footage movie. You know what's funny? About 5 or 10 years ago, when people would say the word found footage, it just got so old. They'd say, yeah, I'm working on a movie. It's found footage. You kind of can only do a found footage movie once, maybe Cloverfield. And then found footage just gets a little bit like, it's been done. We done seen this before. So Yaug says The Strangers, because it could really happen. And that's the kind of horror generally that I like. I like stuff that could really happen. I was talking about Hereditary earlier, and the idea that so much of that movie could really happen is terrifying. And the fact that perhaps it really did happen, and some of it happened inside someone's head. Maybe someone was losing their mind the whole movie, and we were just going along with their descent, as it were. To bring it back to a movie title. Blair Witch. I never watched Blair Witch either. Yaug liked Blair Witch. I know, Travis, did you see, you like Blair Witch, right? You think it might be one of the best, might be the best found footage movie ever. Yeah, let's make a found footage movie. We done found this footage. Why don't we just like actually look for footage instead of shoot it? And then cut it together. Let's go find a found footage movie. We didn't even make it. We found it. What are we talking about? I'm going to do a station identification. You're watching Aristotle Full Throttle. Today we're talking about scary movies. Not just horror movies. Movies that scare you. What do you find scary? Let me know. I actually find whales scary. But, you know, like in the middle of the night, if I was swimming in the Pacific Ocean and it was the dead of night and like whales were cresting around me, I'd freak out. I would freak out. But maybe I would make friends with a whale. And then I would ride the whale to shore and tell a whale of a tale. Blair Witch Project, including the ending. I've never seen Blair Witch Project, but I don't know. I heard it was good. Huge bushes scare me personally. Yeah, right? Do you guys have an irrational fear? Let me know. And we'll make fun of you. Chronicle. Chronicle was pretty cool. It was written by Max Landis. God rest his soul. I used to be friends with Max Landis. Orca was a great movie, but not really scary. Yeah. Orca, Orca it's a movie about an orca, I guess, a killer whale, if you will. And they were like, well, listen, Jaws, that people get attacked by sharks, and great white sharks are scary. What's bigger than a great white shark? An orca. So let's make an orca kill somebody. But orcas are kind of too cute, right? You can't have an orca be scary. It's cute. But they are pretty terrifying. They will murder you. They will eat your leg for breakfast. But they are adorable. Interstellar scared you. Titanic scared me. Was it Billy Zane's hairpiece? Interstellar is it's pretty scary. I mean, the idea that the Earth is dying and then they need to replenish it because the blight is taken over. I like those kind of movies that are chaotic. Children of Men, scary. Titanic is horrifying. It actually is horrifying, you know? No joke. All jokes aside. Titanic, I remember sitting in the theater while the ship is sinking. Spoiler alert. Going, this is terrifying. Could you imagine? And it really puts you on that ship while it's smashing and breaking and people are falling and hitting the rudder. And ooh, it is pretty scary. Also, the idea that Leonardo DiCaprio, I don't know, that's terrifying. Why didn't he just get on the thing with her? Why couldn't he get on that door? Brad Pitt said he would save some space and pull up Leo onto the door with him. What does he call him? LDC? The idea of sitting through that snooze fest was a nightmare. Yeah. You know what's scary about Titanic? It's 3 hours, 20 minutes. That's freaking terrifying. I remember I worked at a movie theater when Titanic was out. Best time to work at a movie theater. I was a youngin'. And I would see these kids. So the first week that Titanic came out, this is a fun little recollection. This goes in my memoir. First week I was tearing tickets for Titanic. I was not sure. I noticed there's just a lot of old people. A lot of folks who were graying, a bit wrinkly, if you will. I don't say they were senior citizens. First week of ripping tickets for Titanic. The second week of ripping tickets for Titanic was kind of the general crowd, the general audience, because I guess word got out. The third week, Titanic was out. I worked at a multiplex. There was no parking left in the parking lot. People were still pulling into a crowded parking lot with 0 spaces. There were lots of parking spaces. They were all filled, and people wanted more spaces. And I was ripping tickets all day for 14-year-old girls going to see Titanic for all day. And they would say, this is my 4th time watching this movie. And I'm like, 4 times 3. Or some people would be like, this is my 7th. And then I think I saw the whole movie that way. I think the soundtrack is making me remember fondly. Irrational fear, mascots. So you're like an anti-furry. Let's see, I can't watch movies that's set in the deep ocean with big fish. Whales scare me too. Not scared of sharks though. So Jaws not scary. Yeah, Jaws is kind of a... Is Jaws scary? I think it's more the idea of getting eaten. It's scary. The shark isn't too scary. Chronicle was pretty good. Open Water. Ooh, I did see that. That was terrifying. Open Water. I really liked Split. What I really liked about Split was James McAvoy. And I think I haven't seen Glass yet, but James McAvoy in Split is just like, if you like to watch someone be good at acting, just watch Split. And this guy goes from personality to personality. And my favorite thing about Split, and I don't think this is giving too much away, is that he's got a dozen or so personalities, or there's uncountable personalities. So that's a great concept for making sequels, because then he could just keep coming up with more personalities. But there's a scene in Split where one of his personalities is pretending to be another one of his personalities, and it's freaking great. Just good acting. Netflix just told me that Surviving R. Kelly Part 2 has just arrived, everybody. Announcement from Netflix on my notifications just now. Yeah, the music cues are pretty scary about Jaws. We're gonna need a bigger boat. Great line. One time I was getting a fitting for a costume thing, and I made the best pun I ever made in my life, but nobody got it. They were putting a bow tie on me, and I'm a large man, and it was very tiny. And then I said, "We're gonna need a bigger bow tie," and nobody laughed. So I'm gonna share that with you guys, and you all can take that one and remember it, because I remembered it. I was very proud. Nobody laughed. Don't see Glass. There's a lot of things in the trailer about Glass that do not make me want to see it, actually, even though I have the same haircut as Glass, as Mr. Glass. We go to the same barber. So one of the things in Glass that I just did not understand is I used to be a counselor and a case manager for people with mental illness and stuff, so they're all hospitalized. And there's a psychiatrist interviewing these three people at the same time in a room, and they're all in a chair like 10 feet apart, social distancing or whatever. And that scene alone, I'm like, I don't even understand the scene. What does this even mean? Why would a psychiatrist be talking to all three of them at the same time? And why would they all be in straitjackets, in chairs? And I don't know. It just seemed dumb. I don't really like the way they portray mental health wrong on screen a lot of times. There's this weird perception that there are people just walking around in straitjackets babbling to themselves. It's just not so. It's not a true thing. So when I see that, I get annoyed. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, though, that's a pretty funny movie. By funny, I mean horrifying in lots of different ways. Very forgiving of M. Night, and there's no excusing Glass or The Happening. No. The Happening. You guys remember that from The Happening? What's up, goat? Remember that? What's up, tree? Don't kill me, tree. What, wind? What's up, wind? Why are you killing everybody? I just saw a movie that I liked with Marky Mark, and it was Spencer for Hire, or Spencer, the show Spencer on Netflix. I enjoyed that. It was dumb, but it was fun. No. What did she say? You want to watch me go outside and kill myself? No. I think I'm just gonna do the rest of the show as Marky Mark, and the Funky Bunch. Thanks for the kudos on the Wahlberg. The funny thing about Wahlberg is he doesn't know that he's funny. I think it's funny when people like Arnold Schwarzenegger don't know that they're funny. When he talks about Predator, he's like, every time the people, they want me to say, get to the chopper, I don't understand it. People laugh. I just say the thing and they laugh. It's like, yeah, dude, because it's freaking hilarious. And you don't know it. But that's okay. You don't have to. Just say the thing and make us laugh. The Supposed. What was... Oh, that was supposed to be a horror movie. I thought you were writing The Supposed was a horror movie. You ever see those people that say supposedly? Yeah, me too. Don't see Glass. Maybe at one point. I think it's pretty interesting that if you've ever been to Italy, and if you've ever been to Florence, Italy, there's a place called the Duomo, and it's actually in Hannibal. They talk about this in Hannibal, the movie. There's on the ceiling is the depiction of the 7 layers of hell, or the 7 layers of limbo, Dante's Inferno, basically. And you look up every Sunday. The people 500 years ago would look up during their Catholic mass and see hot pokers being stuffed into people in all the different parts of their bodies, and burning in hell, and their flesh being eaten by Satan. And they'd all be like, "Have a happy Sunday, everybody. Enjoy your Holy Communion." And it just it just seemed like a way to keep people in line. But if you go to the Duomo and you look up and you see that scariness, it's pretty terrifying. I actually went up. There are also different, I don't know if you call them catacombs, but different areas of the Duomo. If you walk up this building and go into different areas, there are torture rooms, torture devices. There are things where they would strap people down to tables and stick needles into them and do all sorts of kinds of things. Iron Maidens even. Not like the band, an actual Iron Maiden. Which is a thing, it's like a casket you go into with needles, and then they close the casket on you and they stick all the needles into you. But I look at that and I'm like, they was just into non-consensual kink back then. But they didn't know how to do it. They didn't know how to express themselves consensually. They just wanted to torture. So the moral of the story is, don't go to church. Mark Wahlberg, man. I think he's kind of crazy. But, mascots. Why are you afraid of mascots? What has a mascot ever done to you except for delight you and make you happy? They are pretty scary. Who's that mascot from, like, Philadelphia who's just kind of a weird... He looks like one of the Fry Guys or something? So much commotion going on in my hallway right now. Sounds like they're delivering a baby, not just the mail. Let's see. Arnold. I remember being traumatized by Iron Maiden Acid Queen scene in Tommy the movie. Tommy the movie. Talk about scary, but for different reasons. Musicals. Those scare me. Is Little Shop of Horrors a horror? I thought it was fun, but it's got some scary parts to it. Yeah, when people get violated, their personal space gets violated, that's pretty terrifying. Don't stand so close to me, is what Sting said. We've only got a few minutes left in the live stream. We're going to be doing this every day, around noonish. We're going to talk about different movie topics every day. And I'm really enjoying this with you guys. You guys are coming out in troves, and we're talking about different things. Is it troves or droves? Let me know. Oh, the other day you guys missed my Scottish reveal. If you guys do any of you remember that I was saying something in Scottish that seemed undiscernible to anybody who speaks English, or indiscernible, but it actually means something quite clearly to anybody who's Scottish. And I'm going to say it again. And if you can guess what I'm saying, I'll send you a lollipop. This is a Scottish thing. The only thing I know how to say in a Scottish accent, which is "Got snoptro." And if Simon Pegg were here, he'd just laugh. He would know what I said, and he would answer it. Ooh, The Shining is scary. Shining is really good. You know what scares me about The Shining? Jack Nicholson. When he says, "I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your skull in," or whatever, that scene like echoes in my mind as freaking terrifying. Because it's like, wait, you just said you're not gonna hurt me, and then you said you were gonna hurt me, liar. Yep. I'm gonna say it one more time, And let me know if you can guess what I'm saying in Scottish. Because the other day we were talking about accents. You can go back on my channel and watch that live stream. If you're watching this on YouTube, please just like the video. Just like it. Likes help the algorithm. So do that. It helps me. It's very easy. Just like it. I would really appreciate that. It helps people find the videos. It helps boost the videos in the algorithm. But I'm gonna say the thing one more time in Scottish, and then I'm gonna reveal what I'm actually saying. Dot snop troll. Anybody? Anybody? No? Dot snop troll. Really saying the phrase, do you like Snow Patrol? Snow Patrol is a band, and they're a Scottish band, or the singer's from Scotland. So that is not as exciting as I think you might have thought it was, but it's funny to anybody who's Scottish, because they'll just go, yeah, I like Snow Patrol. Do you want cilantro? Pretty close. Do you want cilantro? I do. I know Travis doesn't. If you ask Travis if he wants cilantro, he will say no. He does not want cilantro. Hold the cilantro. It will ruin his day if you give him cilantro. It's a divisive answer, but you could say, ja, snap troll. They love it. So we talked about all sorts of horror movies, scary movies, movies that give you the thrills, give you the chills, give you the spills, maybe make you puke in your pants. I'm having a great time with you guys every day on this live stream. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you're washing your hands and your faces and not touching your mucosal membranes. The ones on your face anyway. You can fondle all the parts you want. We here at Aristotle Full Throttle believe in spreading love, not disease. Also, and when I say we, I mean you and me. You and me. Yes, I'm talking to you. Point to yourself. That's who I'm talking about. That's the you I'm talking about. So, please, have some kindness and consideration for your fellow human being and stay the heck away from them. Don't get too close. We can get through this. It's just going to be maybe a little bit more time. But magically, if the entire Earth just locked down for 2 weeks, and I know that's not possible, there's a chance that this could all go away, or at least reduce to the point where it's manageable. So until then, please stay away from each other until we have enough tests to go around to test each other for this, and antibody tests, and to test whether or not you have it. Be safe, be kind, watch movies, watch TV, get your work done, get your homework done if you're in tele school. I don't know what they call it these days. I haven't been to school in forever. But I'm Aristotle Full Throttle, your bro in the know with the fro. I'll see you later. Bye, guys.